Tonight, the Green Lantern Corps are so determined to defeat Relic you'd think it's the end of the world. The Suicide Squad still hasn't learned not to trust Amanda Waller for anything, and Superman Wonder Woman proves that a romance book can be successful so long as you don't focus at all on the romance. All that and more tonight on the Not So New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 110 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and I don't know whether to say it is a normal week or it is a super exciting week. And here's why. I'm going to list off the comics and then I'm going to tell you why like 50 to 60% of them are all really important. So we have, in no particular order here, Forever Evil Arkham War, Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, Superboy, Superman/Wonder Woman, Green Lantern Corps, Katana, World's Finest, Suicide Squad, and Constantine. So out of that, Forever Evil Arkham War, brand new #1, spin-off / event thing going on. It's a whole thing. Superman/Wonder Woman, brand new #1. It's got some really big reveals in it that are probably going to lead to very big things at the end. So that's a big thing. Superboy, tie into War. Probably the least big thing out of this whole week, but still technically happening. Green Lantern Corps, next part of Lights Out. So that's going to have big events in that. Suicide Squad, technically a tie into Forever Evil proper. It is its own story going on there. And there was one more. Oh yeah, Batman. The typical Batman issue, or any issue, is 21 pages. Batman this week is 54. It takes me twice the time to talk about it, and it's all just because it is the end of the first half of the 0-year arc. So a lot of big things are happening, but there's no major one thing I can point to and say, this is the thing that, everything is leading to. It's all just kind of, sevens in terms of importance, It's nothing huge, but it's all still big. So, I don't know. It's a week. And I implore you to check out pretty much every comic, especially Superboy, because oh boy, do I have words with what they're doing to Superboy. But regardless, we're going to start off with the one that is definitely an event comic, Forever Evil Arkham War #1. Forever Evil Arkham War #1, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Scot, Eaton. This is, of course, one of the many spin-offs that we will be having regarding Forever Evil. And this one deals about what's going on in Gotham, but there's already a bit of lead-in. So Gotham has been broken apart where all the different inmates that you know from Arkham have gotten a piece of the city, with Penguin now acting as mayor. And then Bane decided, screw that, I'm going to show up and claim it as my own. And he has plans for Blackgate Prison. So that's all pre-reading going into this. So we pick up with Detective Pierce, who I don't know if we're familiar with her, but she's talking to Gordon, giving him the rundown saying, here's what we know. Bane showed up in the middle of the night, and yes, there's a constant solar eclipse going on, so it's hard to tell when night is anymore, but he swam through the sewer of Blackgate Prison, broke it open, and allowed all of his men inside. Inside, the prison had already been opened up, the prisoners were going insane, so they were all let free, and now Bane walked in and said, now I'm in control. And Gordon's like, well, Justice League is dead. Batman was a part of that. We're totally screwed. So we'll just do what we can as we can here. And we see the Blackgate guards getting overwhelmed by Bane's forces as they just approach the place. Then we cut to Gotham Memorial Hospital, where a random guy, I'm not even sure if his name matters, he is being chased down by Professor Pig and his Dolatrons. And Pig comes up and catches up to him. He's like, now, you are going to be performing, you're a world-famous violin, and you're going to be performing at the Gotham Philharmonic. And you have a hand injury, so we got to fix that. And Pig shows the work that he did on the guy's hand. Basically, he replaced his arm with his leg, and now he has a foot for a hand, and the guy starts freaking out. And Scarecrow comes up and he's like, Jesus Christ, Pig, it's only been like a week and you're already all up on this. What's going on? And Pig calls him out because Scarecrow's been going around to the different factions of the city, all the different inmates saying, hey, guys, Bane is coming and it's not gonna be good for us. He's going to take control of the city. We have to all team up to stop him. And Pig basically tears him down saying like, nah, man, I just want to sit here and do my experiments. I don't really care about your thing. He's like, yeah, but you're not going to be able to do your thing. So you got to work with us. And I can't tell if Scarecrow convinces him or not. Doesn't seem like it. But regardless, we cut back to Bane as he's just beating his way through Blackgate. And eventually he has a bunch of guards and such all pinned down. And he's like, cool. Anybody else want to challenge me? Anybody else up? And they pull out the warden, who is the interim warden, Agatha Zorbatos, and she's like, yeah, all right, you got to let my men go. Let them go free. It's just me and you. You can deal with me. And Bane's like, oh, okay. Any of you want to go free? And one guy says like, well, this old guy has like a wife and children. He should be let free first if anyone's going to be let free. And so Bane just snaps that guy's neck, being like, all right, anybody else want to go free? And at that point, one of the guards basically stands up and be like, okay, yeah, we're willing to help you. There's this secret wing to Blackgate that nobody, not day shift nor night shift, is allowed to go into. It's all independent contractors. It's right through there. And Bane just rips off the door, and inside are the Talons that were frozen after the Night of the Owls. And Bane's like, awesome. They will be my weapons, and I will take back Gotham City. The reign of these lunatics is already over. So we see Scarecrow meeting up with Penguin, basically telling him the exact same thing. He's like, hey, Penguin, you gotta rally everybody. We gotta fight against Bane. And Penguin's like, you crazies, you absolute lunatics are so different from me. I want you to understand that. I gave you guys pieces of the city in order to like keep you in line, because otherwise I know some of you would have crazy plans, but don't think I actually answer to you as mayor of Gotham now. That's not how this is going to go. And at that point, though, Penguin lays down his plan. He says, yeah, no, if you want to show how to control a city and stop someone even like Bane from taking over, I've already got a plan for that. And basically it just looks like Penguin is blowing up all the bridges, just every single one of them being blown up. So we cut back to Pig in his hospital. He's about to perform some more experiments on people, and Bane shows up, grabs a few of his Dolatrons, snaps their necks, and says, all right, Pig, you work for me now. You're going to help spread the word. I'm the one in control. There's no power left but me. And we see Bane's men making their way through Gotham, attacking not only the police that are left over, but also Poison Ivy's districts and Clayface's districts, saying, Batman's gone, Justice League is gone, there is only Bane. And that's the issue. It's actually pretty short, all things considered. Obviously, the conversations between Scarecrow and Pig and such are a lot more in-depth. He spends a lot of time saying, yes, the secret society and all that stuff in Forever Evil. It's all very important, but, like, it's not, and it's not really going to come up. So, overall, I think it's a fine first issue, but it is weird because we have been seeding this stuff for at least 2 or 3 months now, in various other books, such as Talon and all of the villain tie-ins last month. So, in general, this isn't really that much of a first issue, in so much as it is just the first of the event itself. It feels like we're more or less on issue 3 in terms of how much lead-in we've had. So, it doesn't do a lot to excite me for the event. I don't think that is really that big of a deal that Bane has just shown up in this issue. It doesn't feel like anything major has happened. Professor Pig is not a big thing to write home about, so I gotta say this is probably, in terms of first issue of a, admittedly spin-off, but still its own separate event book, this is only like a 6.5 for me. It's perfectly finely written. It's drawn perfectly well as well. I don't have issues with the content itself. It's just that it doesn't feel like it's really kicking off this big major thing. It feels like it's already halfway down the road to that. So we'll see what we do with the remaining 6 issues if we ever get anything huge out of it. But frankly, it just feels like spin-off territory to me. Suicide Squad number 24, written by Matt Kindt, art by Patrick Zircher. So this issue and the next 5 after it are all labeled as tie-ins to Forever Evil. And to an extent they are, but it's more so of here's just what Suicide Squad was doing during Forever Evil rather than it actually doing anything for the main book. So just know that's a thing. Anyway, last thing you need to know is that Amanda Waller is kind of stuck at Blackgate Prison because of the event of Forever Evil. And then, the entire Suicide Squad has all had their neck bombs removed in the meantime. So we pick up in Belle Reve, which is just on fire. Everything's going wrong. Amanda Waller is about to be attacked by some random guy who is apparently a shapeshifter. I don't think he even has a name. And Waller slaps a bandage to the back of his head that acts as an explosive, so she presses a button on her phone and it blows up. And so she manages to run. She hides from the prisoners inside. She makes comments on how all of the prisoners, they're free to go. They can leave, but they choose to stay here just to mess it up a little bit. And that, of course, is making it a lot harder on Waller. One other thing that you need to know is that the entire world has gone dark electronically, except for Waller. For some reason, Belle Reve is left online. So Waller makes her way into a super old tech room where she, no one else knows it's there. And she goes in and she calls Deadshot. Now, in the Villains Month, we had her already trying to get Harley and Deadshot to get their help to do something. And this is her basically coming in saying, hey, Deadshot, hope you're still going to help me. Remember, I have the girl, the one you've been looking for. And Deadshot's like, I think you're lying, but regardless, I guess I'll help you. And Waller says, all right, cool. I'm going to send you coordinates. You need to get to the Rocky Mountains. There's something there. It's a super weapon. If the crime syndicate ever gets their hands on it, everything is going to hell. So get up there. And yeah, you're going to need probably more than just Harley to do that. So he makes his way to a nearby bar, and we see a bunch of lowlifes all hanging out there who are, not wanting to get involved in the whole end of the world scenario thing going on. And apparently they're there for Captain Boomerang, and they say, hey, look, we will forget about all the times you've double-crossed us and whatnot if you help us get to the Rocky Mountains for Waller. And he's like, why in the hell would I help Waller? And he basically says, I know where she is. I'll let you get first crack at her when we need to go see her. And Boomerang's just like, hell yeah, sounds great. So I gotta admit, this part kind of is confusing me. We're in, I believe, Belle Reve still. And James Gordon Jr. is watching as a bunch of the inmates are being told/convinced to build what appears to be a super weapon with a bunch of satellite dishes and stuff on it. And Junior has no idea what's going on, but we see there is one man who's like, man, screw this. I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving this place. I don't want to do this. And another guy comes up and be like, oh, it's all part of the plan, though. The Thinker, he's the one in control of all this. He's got it all figured out. And the guy's like, screw Thinker. I don't want to be a part of his plan. And King Shark comes up and starts eating the guy, just straight up chewing him in half. So the other guy's like, oh, King Shark, hell, I was telling him part of the plan. And King Shark just tells him, no talk, more work. So at that point, Junior approaches this guy. His name is Hippogriff. And he's like, Hippogriff, hey, what the hell's going on? And he's like, oh, I can't talk. I got to work. And so Junior presses a secret panel on the floor that opens a secret compartment downstairs. And he basically tells him, okay, I'm put this big explosive necklace around your neck now. If you so much as blink, it will explode. Tell me everything I need to know. Who's the Thinker? And he says, oh, it's this guy. He's got some sort of powers or whatnot. Don't know what's up, but he's in this cell at the end of the row. And so Junior then stabs the guy numerous times and says, Thinker, Thinker. Why do I know that name? And so he goes down and peeks in on the Thinker in his cell, where King Shark is also there, being his muscle, more or less. And he's like, oh yeah, Thinker. He's got these weird like rod things coming out of his head. He's super duper smart, like beyond genius level. And Waller was hoping to use him in the same way that she is using, quote unquote, me. So yeah, he's a bit of a threat. And Thinker says, yeah, no, we've got a plan. Waller is somewhere in this house. You're free to find her. Go ahead and get her whenever you want. So then we cut over to the Rocky Mountains. And already there, I can never remember this guy's names. I think it's like Mad Dog or like Wild Dog or something like that. He was in Arrow. He's snowboarding down the mountain, and we see that Waller, during the looting and whatnot, he was like shooting a bunch of looters. He was just straight up killing them. And Waller shows up and says, hey, I'm Amanda Waller. I'm the head of Argus. We've noticed you being a vigilante, and I need you to help me out. My original team of the Suicide Squad has betrayed me. They're making their way to the Rocky Mountains, and they're going to deliver this super weapon to the crime syndicate. You got to get there first and stop them. And as he arrives at these coordinates that are preset, he comes across Steel. And Steel, if you don't remember, way back in an Action Comics backup story, he basically hung up the cape and the suit and retired to a tiny village in Australia. Well, turns out the village blew up because of the crime syndicate. And Amanda Waller comes up and says, wow, that sucks. Hey, how about you join my team, Steel? And so he does. And so they never say whether his name is Wild Dog or Mad Dog or whatever. I'm going to say Wild Dog. That sounds right to me. So Wild Dog and him talking, just being like, oh, do you know where we're going? And he's like, nah, no idea. And then all of a sudden, out of the snow comes the unknown soldier. And he's like, hey, I am the leader of this team. I worked with Amanda Waller. I know where we're going. So they start walking their way up this big mountain. And Wild Dog's like, why should I trust you? How do we know that you're the leader? And he's like, I don't care if you trust me or not. We're going up to that thing. And Steel seems to be waiting on one more person, but they're not aware as to who it is. So they make their way up to this facility. They get jumped by a bunch of guards that are there. And then all of a sudden, Power Girl swings in through the roof saying, sorry I'm late. Let's get to the elevator. So she takes care of the goons. All the other guys make their way to the elevator. And at this point, they get out of the elevator and see Boomerang, Harley, and Deadshot collecting OMAC, saying, hey, Waller, we got OMAC for you. Where's our extraction? And Waller says, copy, proceed to phase 2. And then Unknown Soldier calls in, says, Waller, we see them. They've got the weapon. What should we do? And she says, copy, proceed to phase 2. And so now it's the two teams pitted against each other, trying to fight over OMAC. And we cut back to the cell of the Thinker, and he says, yes, proceed to phase 2. And King Shark remarks, wait a minute, you sound just like Waller. What are you doing? And he's like, you can go find Waller whenever you want. She's wearing one of the explosive collars that's going to explode if she ever leaves Belle Reve. And she's screaming out like, no, Deadshot, do you copy? Do not bring OMAC here. Repeat, do not bring OMAC. So it seems like this is all part of the plan of Thinker. I gotta admit, this one's pretty dense. This one's introducing a lot of people very quickly. I mean, I'm familiar with these people. Power Girl, Unknown Soldier, even from this book. I'm not saying that it's a lot of new people in terms of not knowing them. However, a lot of them have very different alliances now. For instance, I don't know what Steel's been up to. I don't know what Captain Boomerang's been up to. I don't know what OMAC's been up to. So we're introducing a lot there. And on top of that, the Suicide Squad doesn't seem like it's really loyal to Waller either. So I'm not sure why they're doing that as well. It's introducing a lot. But I think that it's an interesting concept here of you have someone basically playing the role of Waller and no one's able to tell the difference. And Waller's just kind of left to her own devices. I'm sure that we'll get a point where she is jumping into things and actually being able to intercede, but it's an interesting start at the very least. So I'm going to give this one I'll give it a flat 7. And I think that's only because the only reason it doesn't get a little higher than that is it stretched itself a little too thin. It didn't feel like it really focused on points it needed to. For instance, the Gordon Jr. part, I feel like that could have been completely left out for now, but they put it in, so it's getting a 7. Green Lantern Corps number 24, written by Robert Venditti and Van Jensen, art by Bernard Chang. This is part 2 of the Lights Out event, and last time in Green Lantern, a lot happened, but the big thing is that Relic showed up to Oa, smashed the main power battery, drained it of its power, and now Oa is apparently going to explode. So we pick up basically right there with Relic saying like, hey, I smashed your battery, and that's pretty much good enough, but you guys still have your rings, and that's a problem, so gimme. And Hal's just like, no, screw this, I'm gonna go fight that guy. So he flies up, he tries to do something, John joins in to provide backup, and then, of course, Relic has his little disc thingies that absorb the light and then redirect it, and it just blasts Hal and John through a building. And so everyone else runs up and they're like, okay, since we've established that just running up and punching him isn't going to work, could we try anything else? And Hal's like, we could just get past those discs. And then they realize there's no time because right then there's a massive earthquake and Oa is already starting to fall apart. So Hal's like, oh, we don't give up, we don't run away. And John points out, hey, Hal, let me tell you this military story. Way back, there was, the U.S. Army came after a tribe of Indians. They managed to escape up to Canada because they, retreated, and a few of them stayed behind as distractions. Do you get what I'm saying here, Hal? And Hal's like, no, I'll never let you do that. And he's like, well, I'm going to do that. And he's like, fine. You do that. Take a few of your recruits from this book, and I'll take care of everyone else. And they say, oh, wait, Kyle, can you just teleport us out? And he's like, no, I can't just... You're asking me to teleport out the entirety of the Green Lantern Corps on this planet? I could barely do it with like 6 people, man. And he's like, all right, sorry, jeez. Okay, get them to the Citadel, which is their hospital. And Selak reveals that once in the hospital, there's basically an emergency pod function. There's an escape route. So at that point, Hal calls up everyone in the Corps, and he's like, all right, all the wounded, everyone who can't fly for yourselves, go to the hospital, get there in you got 5 minutes, get there now. Then we're going to, everyone who can fly away, we're going to wait for John to do his big distraction, and then we'll all leave. Okay, that's the plan. So Selak makes his way over, and by the way, this entire time there's little cutaway panels showing the Corps trying to fight against Relic however they can in his machines. So as Selak's making his way down there, he meets the Guardians, and he's like, Guardians, what are you guys doing here? He's like, oh, we just we're trying to figure out what our brethren had been doing. We'll see if we can figure out anything. Didn't really come up with much. So what do you got? And he's like, oh, I'm about to pull an escape pod. He's like, cool, we'll run defense. Go for it. So Selak makes his way inside the hospital, pulls a lever, and the entire building just blows off as a rocket, escapes the planet. So at that point, John rallies the troops, all of his recruits, and he's like, all right, however much energy you guys have in your rings, use it all. Make yourselves big, flashy, showy, constructs. And we're going to do a mech battle with Relic because he's so dang big. And at that point, he's the couple of recruits are talking. He's like, why are we chosen? We barely know how to use our rings. And one of them points out yeah, exactly. We're expendable here. So they go in and they start a mech battle against Relic. And they start using their constructs to try to punch him. But then obviously Relic just uses his discs. And it's just it's still construct. I can still use my powers. Do you guys seriously not understand any of this here? So as they are trying to fight off all the things, we see that the robots are still attacking all the remaining Corps members, so they're unable to flee the planet. So at that point, John's like, okay, let's go old school. And he tears up a big pillar out of the ground and just says, we're going to attack him with things that we find around us. He can't absorb those. We're going to smack him with sticks, more or less. So at that point, they all start using that. And it is enough that it is a problem for Relic, and he has to redirect his robots to help defend him. So that gives all of the other core members on the planet enough time to get off the planet. And I think it's Hal calls over the thing, and he's like, hey, John, I did actually know that story about that tribe. They didn't make it to Canada. You kind of forgot about that part. And John's like, yeah, that's because they stopped to rest. Don't stop. Don't turn around. Don't wait for us. Just run. Keep going as fast as you can. And Hal's like, all right, we'll do. So all the core members fly off the planet. They're leaving Oa, and they get off as fast as possible, except for one. And that is the warden of the science cells. And Hal calls him in and just like, dude, I told everyone to evacuate. What are you still doing there? And he's like, I'm the warden of the science cells, but like, it would be inhumane if all of the criminals here were left to die. What should I do? And Hal's like, let them go. Let them go. Like, they can fend for themselves, but like, it won't be on you. Let them do whatever they need to. So he opens up all the science cells. All the criminals are freed. And he's like, everyone's got to get to the ships now. And the criminals are like, we're not going to work for you, Green Lantern. And he's like, it's not working. The planet is blowing up, bro. Get out of here. So a bunch of them hop onto ships. They do manage to work together long enough to do that. And they all start flying off the planet. So at that point, it's clear that there's no way they're going to be able to fight off this guy and also escape. The ship that Relic was on starts firing off like grappling hooks that launch into their constructs and drain them even faster than his other machines will. Druk loses his arm. It just gets straight up cut off in the middle of the fight. And seeing all of this, the one really old recruit comes up and he's like, hey, John, you know how I wanted to die before, how I was willing to accept that? Maybe now's the right time to do that. And he's like, no, I can't let you do that. And he's like, look. My species is like nomadic. It's really cool that I was able to travel this far in the universe, farther than anyone in my species. I'm old. I'm frail. I'm done. Let me do this, and at least then the rest of the recruits can escape. So he makes a super like Titan-sized construct, and it provides enough distraction. It needs a few grappling hooks that the rest of the core are able, or the rest of the recruits and John are able to fly off the planet as this one guy holds him in place. And I'll get his name because they do say it here. Ergon. Ergon grabs onto the grappling hook and holds it there. And Relic's like, dude, you lost. Like, what are you even doing? He's like, no, I have lived. And then the planet explodes. Literally the entire planet of Oa just explodes. And the rest of the core turn around and look. And it's like, oh, he sacrificed his life. Good for him. But Relic is still alive. His ship is still there. And he's like, all right, well, the Green Lantern Corps, or Lightsmiths, whatever they call themselves, they'll go away in time. They'll keep using their energy. Just to survive in space, they have to use their energy, so it's all good. But I have enough energy now that I can save the universe. So at that point, Hal, he's like, okay, it's gone, but we got to keep flying. We got to go take care of what we got to do. We barely have enough energy to make it to, and then they get interrupted, and I don't know where they're going. So yeah, that's part two. I mean, good on them. I didn't think they would actually kill Oa this fast. I thought it was the sort of thing where like they would take care of Relic, the event would end, and then we'd come back to Oa and find it starting to like break down, and they'd have to spend a whole arc of either fixing the planet or finding a new place to live, aka Mogo, clearly. But yeah, no, they just did in one issue, which good on them. I didn't think they would. I mean, it makes this event a lot bigger now because it actually has this major stake of, yeah, okay, we already had Relic kill the Blue Lantern Corps and destroy their planet, which, yes, that's bad. That's something. But it hits harder in the Green Lantern book when the Green Lantern planet and its central power battery is destroyed. It makes it feel like there are real stakes here now. So I'm down for this. I think it's good. I don't think this run really had anything to do with the Green Lantern Corps book itself. Obviously, that's where we were dealing with these recruits, and John had a bigger part here, but it kind of just felt like the next part of the story overall. So overall, I'm going to say this is like a 7.5. It was very well written, well drawn. My only critique is that in the back half of the book, I actually had to read it like 2 or 3 times to figure out that Druk lost his arm. It seems like a big deal, but like by the time you hit those final few pages, it just feels a bit too fast-paced. So, but yeah, still good. Still 7.5 worthy. Superman Wonder Woman #1, written by Charles Soule, art by Tony S. Daniel. So, Superman and Wonder Woman now have a book, and it's good. I'll be upfront with it. It's a solid issue. It's all about the fact that they're dating. So, we open up with them flying through the sky, saying, okay, are you ready? Let's go. And they dive their way down into this big storm that is apparently generated over the North Atlantic. And Wonder Woman's making fun of Superman, saying like, oh yeah, you got this? You said you were good with storms. And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll have dinner soon. So they make their way to the eye of this storm. And Superman points out that there's a plane that has some trouble like way over across. And so Wonder Woman goes to deal with it while Superman needs to dive into the ocean beneath to figure out what's going on. And as he reaches his way down, he sees this red glowing light thing. And he's like, what's that over there? That could be an issue. And then all of a sudden he says, oh no, as he realizes whatever it is. Then we cut to earlier, and we're going to keep on intercutting. So previously, we have Clark talking to Cat Grant, because if you didn't know, in other Superman books, he quit the Daily Planet and is now running a blog called ClarkCatropolis.com, and it's not doing well. So Cat's saying, hey, you gotta get me some stories, Clark. It's super important. And then she sees a guy she knows who's like a millionaire businessman named Aaron Lord. He comes, sits with them, and she's just flirting with him, saying, oh yeah, he'll be sure to get us some money. He'll give us some funding. So Clark then bows out, saying that he's got to be somewhere, and she jokes, oh, is it a hot date? So then we cut over to, at the same time, Wonder Woman is sparring with a former/current Amazonian named Hesia, and she's another one who left the island, and basically she's just complaining like, yeah, no, I don't like being so secret. Superman's all about secrets, and I like being out there, and the fact that he wants to keep our relationship a secret, that's also not so cool with me. And Hesia's like, yeah, but you got to think he was raised that way. That's the way he's always known things, as secrets. It's not something that's, you can change, but, you can talk to him, try to get him to come out of his shell a little bit. That's what normal people do. And she's like, oh yeah, I've got a date with him even tonight. So that's happening there. And then we get little intercuts of someone who has a photo of the Superman Wonder Woman kiss, uploading it to a USB drive and putting it in the mail. So, I'll just tell you where that results in now. It's like 4 pages later. Cat Grant, it ends up in her mail pile. And the guy says, are you ever going to open your mail? And she's like, pshaw. Anything important would be emailed to me. So we cut over to the airplane that Wonder Woman was going to get. Jets. There's something wrong with the engine. Wonder Woman, as it's about to hit like the water, manages to pull it up and level it out. And then she looks over and sees something jetting out of the water at like super speeds. And it turns out it's Clark, who got hit out of the water, and he goes right through the plane, basically tearing it apart. And she's like, oh, Jesus, this has gone awful. So she saves the 2 pilots from the airplane, and basically Superman comes up and he's like, hey, yeah, something hit me. I don't know what, but I'll take care of these 2 guys since I'm better at flying than you are. You just stay put. Do not go down and attack that thing until I get back. So at that point, there's an explosion and Wonder Woman is knocked into the water beneath anyway. Then we cut back to their date, as they were saying it. It's in London. Clark shows up with a fancy-ass looking plant that he got from the Fortress of Solitude. He's like, oh, I saw this. It's beautiful, but a little bit strange, and it reminded me of you. And Wonder Woman straight up says, if I wanted smooth, I'd go for Green Lantern. Apparently it's an alien plant. Doesn't take water, it takes cooking oil. And Wonder Woman just says, hey, look, maybe you don't need to keep your Fortress of Solitude secret. Maybe you don't need to keep other things secret. And Superman says, yeah, you don't know what I got up in my fortress. I got to keep that secret. And I also want to keep us secret, not because I'm ashamed or anything, but because it's something that's just between us. It's something that we can have private. I don't have a lot of private things, whether I'm Clark or Superman. So at that point, Wonder Woman goes over, pulls out a sword, and says, by the way, I have a gift for you. It's something from my culture. You are the most powerful being on the planet, or at least, one of them. There's gods. They're literal gods. This sword was made for me by Hephaestus. It can cut through singular atoms. Do you think it could cut through you? And so she starts taking swipes at Clark. He's barely dodging this stuff. And she explains, like, yeah, you are strong, but you've never had any real training. That's my gift to you. I'm going to show you how to fight right. So then we cut back to the military has apparently mistaken Wonder Woman and Superman as destroying the airplane purposely rather than trying to save it and then accidentally blowing it up. So they blew Wonder Woman out of the sky. She gets back on the ship and just starts ripping out the gun turrets, being like, Jesus Christ, we're helping you. What in the hell are you doing? And then she hears this loud boom behind her, and as she turns around, ripping two guys in half is Doomsday. And Superman, we get a little bit of back and forth of like, the narration is all from him saying like, oh, I don't want to fight you, Wonder Woman. And then they get alert from the Justice League saying that this storm is going on and some ships need help. And they both fly off to go take care of it. But the visuals are Wonder Woman starts to fight against Doomsday. And she pulls out that sword that can cut through anything. And it barely does anything against Doomsday at all. And he just smacks her down to the ground. She's bleeding heavily from her mouth. And the final few lines here are like, oh, well, we'll go take care of that storm and we'll come back to this. We have nothing but time as we see Wonder Woman bloodied with Doomsday's fist about to hit her in the face again. So, Doomsday, didn't see that one coming. Doomsday was one of those things that had the villains tie-in, and it was kind of weird that it did, because it didn't, like, it wasn't a thing where, oh, Superman died because of Doomsday. It's this, like, fairy tale, this nightmare story of something that attacked Krypton long ago. So I don't know how in the hell we're going to make that work here, where it's, nope, Doomsday is just here, and he's about to kill Wonder Woman, though I'm sure he won't, because it'd be really weird in a book titled Superman/Wonder Woman to kill off half the title in the first issue. Be ballsy, though. I would give him credit. All in all, it's beautiful looking. It's very well written. Charles Soule and Tony S. Daniel, fantastic, both in their own right at what they do. So I can't give this thing any lower than, I would say, an 8, just even on craft alone. But I also like the direction we're going with it. I will say, I hope that they have the continuity on point here. It feels like they do. It feels like they have a good idea as to what they're working with. But this might be a thing where Superman's like, no, Doomsday killed me. Like, I fought him before. In which case, all continuity's out the window there. But for this issue alone, without speculation, it's an 8. Batman 24, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo. So, just to be upfront with you, a standard comic book is 21, 22 pages, somewhere in there. This book is 54. It's not a special number, it's just the end of the arc, and they just wanted to get it done here. So, it's going to take a while. But we open up. As last issue, we basically had the year 1 ripoff where he says, yes, father, I shall become a bat. We open up with Bruce Wayne getting his hair cut down by Alfred, getting a buzz cut. And it's like, all right, this is crazy, Alfred, but I need you with me. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's true, sir. So then we cut to somewhere in Gotham. We see the Red Hood gang is stealing this pressurized gas, this pressurized oxygen container that's like, super necessary for whatever they're planning. And one of the guys starts to reveal like, hey, don't jostle it too much. I'm a high school chemist. And he's like, no, don't tell me anything about yourself. The point is that we're all completely anonymous here. I don't want to know nothing about you. And then one of them comes out saying like, hey, yeah, by the way, he got 7 of them last night, the guy, the Batman. And it's just like, oh, it's nothing but a bunch of phooey. There's no demon of the night hunting us down. And as they say this, we keep cutting back to the Batcave, and 2 headlights appear. And as this guy's passing up more and more cylinders, he realizes that nobody is taking them and nobody's answering him. So he comes up, and we see that all the Red Hood gang have been tied up in the shape of a bat onto a billboard. And he goes up to the last guy, Batman, and he's like, hey, my bat still needs a head. And he starts to run away, and we get a recreation of the cover to Detective Comics 27, with Batman taking the guy in a headlock as he swings on a grappling hook. So that's that. We then see some time has passed. Batman is in the newspaper, and Red Hood 1 is talking to a couple of his goons saying, just the things Scott Snyder loves to talk about, like, oh, the city of Rome had all these special concretes and whatnot. It allowed the buildings to blah, blah, blah. Point being is that there's this new special type of concrete that is made out of sand, and it is even stronger or whatever. But he wonders how it tastes, and we see him filling the mouths of some of his goons with it because they are basically disloyal or something like that, and he kicks them all off the edge of this boat and says, yeah, we're going to show that this city is built on nothing but sand, and therefore it is totally able to be toppled. Ha ha ha. So Bruce and Alfred are looking over the map of all of the places Red Hood has hit. Seemingly it's random, but they realize that there's a bunch of like highly necessary chemical stuff that's mixed in with seemingly random thefts, and it's the random thefts that are the ones that we need to ignore because they're just noise. So at that point, he's like, okay, I need a better view of this. I need to know everything they hit. So he goes to Wayne Enterprises and talks to Philip Kane. And Philip's like, oh my God, Bruce, I thought you were killed in the explosion of your apartment. And he's like, yeah, I've kind of wanted to pretend to be dead. That's why I didn't like the fact that you outed me. And Philip's like, yeah, no, sorry about that. But like, whatever you want, I'm totally in. Red Hood gang, I let them in thinking I could control them. Clearly I was wrong. And now they've branded me. And he has the numbers Red Hood 341, 347, like branded onto his chest now. So Bruce says, oh, geez, I'm so sorry. But like, I need access to the system so I can see what they are hitting. And Philip says like, yeah, no, for sure. Take whatever you need. Get as much info as you need. And then he shows Bruce this big rock in the middle of the office. And he's like, this came from Gotham's bedrock. And I carved it out here as a reminder to blah, blah, blah. You know what it is. And he basically asked Bruce, why'd you come back? You could have just stayed dead this time. You didn't have to come back here. Why are you back again? And Bruce says like, oh, I just couldn't. There was something keeping me there. And he points out, like, it was Alfred, wasn't it? Alfred managed to pull you out. And he's like, yeah, So we cut back to the openings of what this Batcave will be. It's just a bunch of laptops and a ladder leading down into it. And Bruce points out, with access to all of these things, they know now exactly all the things that the Red Hood gang has been trying to get. And he points out, like, pay attention to this place specifically. We don't get to see it, but Alfred's like, oh no, that would mean, and Bruce is like, yes, exactly. We know what they're going to do, but I just don't know how to stop it. And Bruce says like, yeah, I don't think Batman is really going to be able to do this. I don't think he should. This is a job for somebody else. And we then see the police now have a little corkboard with Batman stuff on it. And again, officer comes in saying, Commissioner Loeb, you need to check this out. Bruce Wayne is giving a talk, and he's talking about the Red Hood gang. And he's like, okay, well, whatever. Go send down a few officers. Send Gordon down there. He's a piece of crap. Screw him. Send Gordon. So all the news crews are there talking to Wayne, and Wayne's like, hey, I've got a monologue for you. Why do you guys stay in Gotham? This place clearly sucks. It's overpriced. It's now like awful to live in. I'll tell you why I live in Gotham. It's because this city used to challenge you to be better, but now, because of the Red Hood gang, it just scares you into submission. I refuse to let that happen, and I cannot overstate how much I am cutting out of this because it is like so dense. But regardless, he says, yeah, here's the thing, Red Hood, they've got a plan. It's going to happen here at Ace Chemical because I figured out that Red Hood is making a chemical cocktail of a radioactive flesh-eating poison that is going to set around the city all over the place. And they're probably going to do it soon, like tomorrow. And so at that point, the Red Hood gang starts firing off little pocket rockets, and Gordon rushes in to push Bruce Wayne out of the way. So there's this giant explosion, and Bruce is like, all right, Alfred, it's time. So he runs into Ace Chemical. The cops also try to follow afterwards. And as he makes his way in, he sees just how many of these canisters are ready for deployment. He's like, oh, God, this is awful. And there's a gun aimed at him behind his head, and it's Red Hood 1. And he's like, yeah, it is. You don't know the half of it. So at that point, all the doors are shut before the cops can make their way in. And Red Hood 1 is like, Bruce, I'm impressed. Yeah, I thought we killed you. Clearly we didn't. You're pretty good. You're pretty awesome here. And then Red Hood 1 explains everything. Like, yep, nope, this is all. I'm going to tear this city down. There's not going to be any resistance because nobody's even going to see it coming. Also, I'm going to blow up Ace Chemical once all the trucks leave and the cops will still be inside. So double win for me. And apparently he wants to do it tomorrow because it is the anniversary of the death of the Waynes that day. So he wants it to be this thing of like, ah, yes, that's where Gotham started to decline and where I was born. And now it will be here where the city ends as well. And Bruce calls him out, just being like, ah, you stupid nihilist. No, you know you stand for something, even if you're just pretending not to. And he's like, all right, well, we'll see how all this goes. And then as he's about to pull the trigger on Bruce, all the lights go out. And we have a police chopper overhead talking to Gordon saying like, oh yeah, it's out for like the whole neighborhood. Wait a minute. It's out for all these blocks that are in the shape of a giant bat. And so at that point, we get into the fight scene. Red Hood gang puts on some night vision goggles, which show Bruce just standing there, and they go to grab him. But then one by one, they get picked off. And then Batman swings down and says, I've got you, Mr. Wayne, and drags him away. And now at that point, all the lights turn back on. The Red Hood gang is blinded because they're wearing night vision goggles. And that gives Batman enough time to go up and start fighting them. Want to point out that there's a single panel here where Red Hood 1, you can tell it's him because of his cape, is like either pulled or steps behind a pillar. And we see that his hood is off. His like little cylinder hood is off. So at that point, he looks over, he sees Batman, and he's like, ooh, hi there, Batman. So he puts his helmet back on, and we just have a whole sequence here of a bunch of people manage to get Batman cornered. He ties him together with a grappling hook and throws him down a stairwell. And then as they start coming down the stairwell again, he retracts the grappling hook and throws them all back up again. So he's more or less taking care of the entire Red Hood gang. Red Hood 1 has a pistol aimed at him. It's about to shoot him, but then Red Hood 1 gets shot in the head by one of his own gang members. Turns out it's 347, which is Philip. And he's like, no more. I won't let you do this. And so Red Hood 1 just shoots 347 over and over again. And Batman hears the number and says, oh no, oh God, tell me it's not too late. So at that point, their explosions start going off because some chemicals got into the bombs. He goes over, Batman, to Philip, and it's like, oh no, it is you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have been able to save you, but Philip's already dead. Red Hood 1 starts making his way to the trucks, trying to get out what they can. Alfred has locked all the doors. At this point, Jim Gordon shows up, and he's got a gun to Batman's head, being like, okay, don't move. You are under arrest for, vigilantism or whatever. But Batman pulls out his own little, grappling gun, which had like a rubber tip or something at the end. I don't know. And he just knocks down Gordon and says, yeah, you need to step back. And we see that a pillar collapses right where Gordon was going to be. So Batman just saved his life. And then Gordon's like, okay, well, regardless, let him go. We'll focus on the Red Hood gang. Get everyone you can out of here. Batman makes his way to the roof where we see Red Hood 1 escaping on a helicopter. And Batman makes a jumping leap enough to grab hold of Red Hood 1's foot, pulls him off of the ladder, and they both fall back down at Ace Chemical. So a little one-on-one fight takes place. Red Hood 1 hits him with a beam. Batman snaps his ankle, and the platform they're on starts to collapse. And there's a big vat of chemicals beneath them. Batman reaches out a hand saying, hey, the railing's not going to hold. Give me your hand. And Red Hood 1 says, no, that's no fun. It's not over yet. And he lets go of the railing and falls down into the vat of chemicals, obviously becoming the Joker. So that's where it ends for Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's story. But now we have a Scott Snyder / James Tynion IV story, art by Rafael Albuquerque. We show the stereotypical clock that opens up to go down into the Batcave. We see that Bruce has set up multiple huge screens down there, and Alfred calls him out being like, are you sure the screens are big enough? And Bruce is like, Batman doesn't need to be subtle. So they explain how they did the night vision looping footage thing to show Bruce Wayne getting taken away by Batman. And he's like, yeah, that should keep him off of my trail for like at least a week, but they'll figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman eventually. And then Alfred's like, well, it's a good thing they caught Red Hood 1. And he's like, yeah, well, maybe not. Because the guy they thought was Red Hood 1, named Liam Distal, turns out they found his body in a bucket full of lye outside of Amusement Mile. And because of the deteriorating nature of lye, they couldn't identify whether he's been there for several months or just like a few days. So there's no telling when the switch happened between Red Hood 1, as we've known him in this book, and the guy who would eventually become the Joker. And that's why I pointed out that little panel where he gets yoinked off screen. I think it's them. But regardless, Alfred points out being like, oh, well, you know, there's so many possibilities there. You're practically picking multiple choice. So Alfred then points out saying like, oh, Master Bruce, you say that they're going to find you one day. You say they're going to know that you're Batman. But here's the thing. I was an actor and I spent so long trying to figure out like the proper way to deliver things so that they didn't see that it was just me, an actor underneath. But what you need to understand is the movie Prestige. And Bruce is like, what? And he doesn't actually say that, but he basically then paraphrases it saying, the audience wants to be fooled. The audience wants to believe that you are this character. They're not going to look under the mask on their own. They want to believe in this bigger than them thing that they can believe in. So yeah, they're going to let you be Batman because they don't want to know who you are underneath it. And Alfred and Bruce share a hug, apologizing to each other for being such dicks recently. And then all of a sudden, there's a call out to Gotham over the TV, and turns out it's Riddler. And he just straight up says, yes, it's me. It's Edward Nygma, but you can call me the Riddler. I'm going to make you smarter, Gotham. Here's Duolingo for you. First is a riddle. Two sisters, each gives birth to the other. Who are they? And it seems that Batman knows it. He's like, oh yeah, it's the Sphinx's second riddle. It's the lesser known one. One sister says, I am the day, and the other says, I am the night. And you could tell he puts the little Batman voice on that. And then Riddler says, well, bring on the dark night. Get it? And then he blows up like a bunch of buildings, and then all of the power goes out all across Gotham, except for Riddler's screen. And he says, all right, Gotham, you're going to have to outsmart me. You need to show me that you're learning something, or else the city dies for real. So let the games begin. And so begins 0 Year Dark City, rather than Secret City. 54 pages to get through that. It's a dense book, but, I mean, it was good. It was a solid, I mean, it gave us all the little flashbacks, all the little side stories where it's like, see, we're doing the Red Hood gang, we're doing the Chemical Syndicate thing, we're doing the literal cover to Detective Comics 27. It's all here. It does feel like a little love story to that stuff while also having it be its own thing. I like the idea that this one took the time to say, yes, no, the Joker did fall into the acid there. That was definitely him. But, like, was he this guy that we've been following this whole time even? I like that. It adds up that little bit of mystery to it. Art's great. Writing's great. We're setting up the next bunch of books, so we'll see how that turns out. Overall, it's a great issue. I don't really have a problem with it. It's a good way to wrap up this part of Zero Year. So I'm going to give this one I'm going to say 9. I'm just going to give it the 9. It might be a bit too much for some people. It might be a bit leaning too heavily into, the Joker's origins and all that. And I got to admit, the thing that's really holding it back for me from even getting higher than a 9 is, Jesus Christ, we spent like 2 full pages on, here's how Gotham's bedrock works, and here's how concrete works, and here's how, like, I don't care about that stuff, Scott. I understand you did your research. You really have this point you're trying to make with scientific facts, but, like, as soon as you start telling me the chemical composition of Gotham's bedrock, you need to strip it back a tiny bit. But I'm still going to just give it the 9 because it is a great issue regardless. Batgirl number 24, written by Gail, Simone, art by Fernando, Pasarin. So last issue, a lot happened, but I think the biggest thing is Ricky got shot, Batgirl's boyfriend at the time. So we open up this issue and Ricky's brother is just like, oh God, no, my brother. Jim Gordon's like, dear Lord, what have I done? The dude who was going to shoot Ricky's brother is like, oh my God, Ricky got shot by a cop. How cliche. And then Batgirl's like, you shot him. You shot him. And so at that point, everyone just starts surrendering to the police. Gordon's like, Harvey, I hope you understand. I had to shoot him. He had a gun. He wasn't lowering it. And Harvey's like, yeah, no, totally. It's like totally by the book. Don't worry about it. You're totally cool. So everyone starts surrendering except, of course, Batgirl, Barbara. She's not in her Batgirl outfit now. She's still in like her ninja gear. And she's like, is this it? Is this how this ends? Nah, screw this. So with all of her rage and anger, she just starts attacking the police and starts going after them one by one. Until finally, during the fight, Tyrell, the guy who was going to shoot Ricky's brother, sees the like super powerful weapon he was going to use, and he starts going for it. Batgirl sees that, hits him over the head, knocks him out. And as she, like, all the cops are saying like, oh, she's knocking us out, shoot her. Someone says, no, don't, she's unarmed, puts a hand on her shoulder, and Batgirl swings around about to throw a super hard punch right into her dad's face. And she's like, oh, okay, I almost just punched out my dad. I gotta go. So she runs out the door and flees from the scene. She even stabs the tires of all the police cars before she leaves, and she's like, well, that'll take that care of. And she makes her way down to an abandoned train yard where, for some reason, Detective McKenna is waiting. And all the cops have to stand around for a bit, and Harvey's like, Commissioner, you understand, I gotta take your gun. It's just procedure. And he's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it, Harvey. So it's revealed that the boy is not dead, but it doesn't look good. So whatever that means. At that point, Batgirl is talking to McKenna. It's got guns still aimed at her head. And she's like, hey, could you tell me why Nightfall would be arming some thugs, some random street gangs? And McKenna's like, what? And Barbara reveals that the gun she saw was obviously super high tech, and there's only one person in the area who would have the funds to get something like that. And she figures it's Nightfall. So she's like, yeah, okay, so why would Nightfall be doing it? And McKenna reveals like, yeah, she gives these guns to these gangs, they wipe out all their rivals, and then she just gives a gun to another gang to wipe them out. And so nobody ever gets too big, but everyone's always answering to her. And so McKenna realizes, oh, wait a minute, hold on, you're Batgirl, aren't you? And she's like, yeah, sort of, kind of. So at that point, she puts away her gun and says, okay, if you're going to go after Nightfall, you got to be careful because she's got some big firepower, apparently busting them out of both Arkham and Blackgate. So at that point, some other cops arrive. McKenna lets her go, and Barbara makes her way back home. She meets up with her roommate, Alicia, and Alicia's like, oh, geez, you look like hell. Let me make you some tea, get you some cookies or whatnot. And by the time she comes back, Barbara's just passed out on the couch. And she sleeps for like nearly a full day. We got a full page of just that. Her father's been calling her phone constantly, and getting voicemail. So Jim's house, he arrives home, looks at a picture of his family, and just stands there alone. So then the next day we see down at Gotham Hospital, Barbara makes her way. She sees Ricky's mom, and it's just like, oh God, I what should I even say? I don't even know what's up. So she steps up and just says, like, do you remember me? And she's like expecting the mom to be angry because she's the daughter of the police commissioner, but instead the mom just hugs her, and they both sit down to have a meal. And at that point, the mom reveals, one of my sons is in jail. The other one's in a coma, might never wake up, could die at any minute. I'm not even allowed to go see him. And Barbara's like, I'll talk to my dad about that. I'll get you in to see him. I'm so sorry. She's like, why are you sorry? You're not the one who did it. And she's like, oh God. So at that point, she gets another call from her dad. She screens it. Dad leaves a voicemail saying like, hey, you probably know what happened. I swear to God, I didn't know he was your boyfriend, but like, we got to talk about this. This is not something that's just going to go away. So at that point, Barbara, she listens to the voicemail. She's like, all right, Dad, I'm on my way to you. And we see Jim's just drinking in the dark. And then all of a sudden, out of the darkness comes the mirror from the first arc of this book. And at that point, Jim's like, oh, mirror. Yeah, I remember you. Well, let me get you a cold one. Smashes it against the guy's head. And just at that point, Mirror starts going after Jim, starts attacking. And we see this is all based off of Nightfall. She said, yep, nope, Jim, he's a good man, he's a good cop, but he got a little bit too close to us because he came to interview me and then immediately went to arrest the guy who I gave guns to. So that is not just happenstance. We got to take him out. So in order to take him out, we just get every villain that has been in the first 24 issues of Batgirl. So we have Gretel, we have Grotesque, we have Mirror, we have the 3 members of Nightfall's gang, and all of them are in Jim Gordon's house. They've knocked out the power to the entire block so that no one's able to do it. There's no radio signal either. So when Barbara arrives, Jim's getting like electrocuted and held up by his throat against the wall, and Barbara arrives and her radio goes out and she sees one of the Nightfall goons there and just like, wait a minute, hold on, that guy's name is Michael. And he's standing watch outside my dad's house. Someone's in there with my dad, but I can't call anyone for help because all the radio signals are down. I don't have my suit, my new gear with me. What do I do? And then she realizes, oh wait, I still have the Batgirl outfit. Well, I guess it's time for one last time of Batgirl, and she starts putting on her gear. And that's the issue. It's good. It's a fine next chapter of that. I don't really have any issue with it. It does feel weird to me because I don't recall, I mean, maybe she said it last issue, but it didn't feel to me like she didn't associate the suit with Batgirl, She associated her actions with being Batgirl, and it's only because she had to run in to save Ricky in such a unexpected circumstance. That's the only reason she wasn't wearing the Batgirl suit. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel to me like her saying, I have to put this suit on one more time. It's like, you literally 24 hours ago, you were doing Batgirl things. The only difference is you weren't wearing the suit. The suit doesn't matter here, So, I don't know. It honestly just feels like more of an excuse of, we have to get Batgirl dressed as Batgirl in front of Jim Gordon again so that they can have this thing they're going to have, whatever it's going to be. Overall, I'm surprised to see the new or the old villains coming back, especially ones like Gretel, who I think was only in like 2 issues. That wasn't even a full arc. That was just like a little drop in the bucket. So it feels like Gail Simone's kind of just wrapping up a run. I don't know for sure. I didn't bother to check whether or not this is her final trade, whether this is her last arc, but it feels like it could be. Yeah, no, I'll give this one it just feels like a flat 7 sort of territory. It's well written. I do believe, her anger and her grief in the first half of this book, very well done, but pulling back all those old villains just kind of feels like it doesn't make much sense, especially in a city like Gotham where, why didn't Nightfall just hire, I don't know, Killer Croc or Poison Ivy or literally anyone? Like, why did we only have to stick to Batgirl villains? But yeah, it's a straight 7. Nightwing number 24, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Will Conrad. This is the final part of at least this first Chicago arc. And last issue, we had Tony Zucco showing up with a gun and saving Nightwing and saying, we need to talk. So, also the mayor got taken hostage by Prankster, but like that, whatever. So we open up with Nightwing on a motorcycle. He's got Tony Zucco strapped to the back, like all tied up. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. It's been a crazy night, but I've got to help stop this city from falling into the wrong hands, blah, blah, blah. And Tony basically says, dude, I came to you of my own volition. Why are you tying me up? He's like, you came with a gun. Why do you think I'm tying you up? You're also still a murderer. And he's like, all right, fine, whatever. Here's the thing. I know who the prankster is. And you and I are the only ones in the city who have a shot at even stopping his master plan here. So Zucco explains, and I'll just straight up say the whole thing. The mayor, Wallace Cole, became mayor because two things happened. One, he convinced the city to basically bulldoze their old neighborhood and put a train line in. And then two, one of the project's electrical engineer named Harold Loomis died on Halloween. And it doesn't seem like it was an accident. And the son of Loomis saw everything, or at least saw his father die, and became the prankster. And now he wants payback. And we see his Halloween costume is pretty much exactly that of the prankster costume. So at that point, we see that William, the brother of Wallace, who took the fall for the murder, went to jail and was basically given the souvenir of the prankster mask as a reminder that, you know, prankster's coming for him and he's going to kill him. And he explains all this, and Zucco says, like, you think it's coincidence that this all happened in October? Tonight is Halloween. He's doing it on the anniversary of his father's death. That's the whole point of it. And Zucco says, like, look, yeah, if you want to take me in for doing in the Grayson, so be it, whatever. But we have to stop the prankster. So we see prankster taking the mayor and says, like, look, I don't know why you think I stole all this money. He's like, I don't think you stole all the money. I know you didn't steal all that money. That money didn't even exist. I know who you are. You don't even recognize me. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And so the actual prank here, the plan here from prankster is, I've loaded up the train lines that I have disabled. They've all been sitting there still. I loaded them up with a huge amount of explosives, enough to level like this entire section of the city. This is the thing that will disarm it, but you have to get right up next to it in order to disarm it. It's right down here. I'll tell you exactly where it is. Here's the thing, though. You are the most hated man in Chicago right now. Everyone in this neighborhood hates you. So he sends the mayor out in the streets, fires a gun off into the air to get everyone's attention. So they're all looking out their window. They all see the mayor there, and they're like, oh, okay, Mr. Mayor coming down to our side of Chicago. And he's like, guy, you don't understand. There's a bomb. And he's like, oh, you brought a bomb. You are literally the worst mayor possible. And they all just start beating the ever-living crap out of the mayor as the prankster watches on. So at that point, Nightwing jumps in with Zucco on his tail. They use the motorcycle to like get some smoke, make it so the mayor can get away easily. Nightwing takes out a few of the more vicious neighborhood attackers, I guess. And the mayor's like, oh, Nightwing, I don't like you, but there's a bomb and you are probably able to stop it. The fuser, whatever you want to call it, is right over there. And we see it get crushed. And he's like, oh, of course. Yeah, great. Anyway, Zucco, take the mayor away. Get him out of here. So at that point, prankster jumps in and he takes control of Nightwing's lenses again. And he's like, dude, I'm just going to do the same thing again. You haven't done anything to like prepare yourself for a rematch with me. And Nightwing's like, you're right. I should have added a kill switch. And he presses a button on his boot. And he's like, oh, wait, I totally did. So at that point, he starts punching out prankster. And he's like, all right, regardless, I don't have much time. I need to get to this. So he swings down into the subway, finds the train, and he's like, okay, I've only got like 40 seconds until all these things explode regardless. So I need a different plan because I'm not going to be able to defuse them. And so he looks at the trail line map and he realizes that there's a bridge nearby. and that was already destroyed as one of Prankster's pranks. So he starts up the train, it starts going down the track, falls off the rails and explodes down in the river beneath. And he's like, woo, all right, did it, saved the town. And at that point, Prankster comes up, and he's like, no, we're not done yet. If anything's going to happen tonight, I'm going to kill you. So he starts strangling Nightwing. Nightwing manages to try to get a hit off, but it's not stopping Prankster. And then Zuko shows up with a gun and shoots Prankster in the shoulder. And he's like, I took the shot. I had to. He was going to kill you. I totally saved your life, Nightwing. And he's like, yeah, okay, I think I would have gotten out of that. But regardless, thanks, I guess. He's still alive. You didn't kill him. So be it. So Zuko hands the gun over to Nightwing. And he's like, it's funny how things turn out. And Nightwing swings away as the cops arrive to arrest Zuko. So Nightwing watches from above, and he's like, he didn't take the credit for saving everybody. He only took credit for saving Nightwing, the prick. But I get to watch him be brought in on handcuffs. He is brought in by the police. So why do I still feel empty? And we see back at the apartment that he's subletting, the one girl, I think her name's Joey, I could be wrong. She's like, oh, hey, we saw Zuko all over the news. They were saying Grayson over and over. We figured that must be the whole reason you came to Chicago. Do you feel better now? And Dick's like, no, not really. I don't. Why don't I feel good? And he's like, well, let me tell you a little story. One time I bought leggings, and I thought I'd really like them, but I didn't. However, I did like the store I bought them from. So if it wasn't for those leggings, I wouldn't have found this great place to be in. You know? And it's basically saying, hey, if you didn't go after Tony Zuko, you never would have come to Chicago. Don't you like it here in Chicago? And he's like, yeah, I guess I'll stay. So at this point, we get one little epilogue where a lawyer is talking to Zuko, still calling him his old name of Billy Lester. And he's like, yeah, anything you want us to do, Billy? And he's like, yeah, could you tell my son that, I told the truth and that's what's important. I didn't hide behind lies. And the lawyer's like, ooh, yeah. Your wife took your son and they want nothing to do with you. So, yeah, you're not going to be seeing them at all. And so he freaks out because he's like, what did you do to my kids? And it's like, dude, it's their handwriting. I don't know what to tell you. They're gone now. But regardless, there are people who want to help you beat these charges and get you back to your old life. Wink. So what do you say, Billy? He's like, don't call me Billy. I'm Tony Zuko. And then the final epilogue is we get, whatever his name is, the other, I think it's Michael. Is that right? The other roommate. Michael's talking to the detective and is saying like, oh yeah, what's going to happen next, Detective Maxwell? And Maxwell's like, oh, there's going to be copycats, escalation, all that sort of stuff. But Chicago should not be a place where heroes are. Not anymore. Not since they got rid of them last time. And Michael's like, oh yeah, I used to be this huge fan of this hero named Ghostwalker, but, everything else happened. And we see Maxwell going into his closet saying, no, there's not any more heroes in Chicago, and there never should be by any means necessary. And he opens his closet and you see the Ghostwalker gear, indicating that this detective was Ghostwalker before whatever happened. And that's the issue. It's fine. It's good. I don't know how I feel about the idea that Tony Zuko was looking for redemption only for the sake of his family. And once his family still left him, then he's just going to fall back into his old things of, oh no, I'm a gangster now. I get that it's kind of not trying to mess with the status quo. It's still making this thing where, the guy who killed Nightwing's parents is still a bad guy. But I don't know. I would have liked to see just a little bit of character evolution there. Hopefully they don't go too far with it. In regards to the Ghostwalker thing, honestly, they haven't revealed enough about that story, the story of how the heroes all were forced out of Chicago for me to really care that much. But it at least gives a little bit more to this detective and why he has such a hard-on towards getting rid of Nightwing, of just hating heroes that much. So I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I gotta say, though, I kind of wish that we would have just went back to Gotham at this point, because they keep pulling Nightwing back to Gotham regardless, anytime there is any sort of event. Like, where is Forever Evil fitting in all this? Dick Grayson was taken hostage. What are we doing there? So, yeah, it's a little bit weird, but whatever. I'm going to say this is I'll give it a 7. And don't think I didn't notice that little reference to Halloween, what with Loomis and all. Did not go over my head. So yeah, it's a 7. It's a fine enough ending, but it does feel like that thing where they have to set up the sequels already rather than just letting you sit with this arc on its own. So yeah. Superboy number 24, written by Justin Jordan, art by Robson, Rocha. So last issue, Superboy was in high school, and then there was someone with ESP powers, and then Psycho Pirate showed up. And it's apparently a tie into Psy-War, I guess. So Psycho Pirate shows up, Eliza is still there. I doubt she'll ever be seen again, but Superboy says, "Go, get out of here, Eliza." So she runs off. And at that point, Psycho Pirate's like, "Hey, Superboy, I don't want to fight you." And Superboy says, "I want to fight you." And he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "No, actually, I'm totally calm now." "Oh, you mess with people's emotions, don't you?" Psycho Pirate's like, "Wow, yeah, you catch on pretty quick. Also, I'm not even really here right now. This is just a projection of me. I'm actually over talking to Superman in his book because, like it or not, you're part of this event, kiddo." So at that point, Psycho Pirate basically just starts talking to him, and it's just like, "Oh yeah, no, look, here's the thing. I just want to talk because you've got some crazy ass powers, and I just, I'm interested in them." But then all at once, Psycho Pirate's projection or whatever starts getting blasted by energy, and turns out it's Dr. Psycho. Yes, this is confusing. So Dr. Psycho steps up being like, "Hey, yeah, he's awful. He's from Hive. You don't want to know anything about him." And Psycho Pirate's like, "Oh, liar, liar, pants on fire. You are the bad one here, Dr. Psycho." So they start having a little psychic fight, but Psycho Pirate has his Medusa mask, which gives him increased powers on top of what he already has. So Dr. Psycho's not really able to do anything about it. And he's like, geez, Superboy, look, here's the thing. Haven't you considered the fact that Dr. Psycho seems like he's getting stronger, whereas you keep on getting weaker? Doesn't it seem like he's kind of, siphoning your powers off? You know what, here, let me show you the mindscape. And so he shows this mental projection of the relationship between Dr. Psycho and Superboy. And Dr. Psycho's like, "Okay, Superboy, I literally don't have any power here, so I just need you to understand. Don't listen to him. He is clearly super evil and manipulative." And he's like, "You're right. You are being manipulated, Superboy, but not by me. Here's the thing." And we get the backstory on Dr. Psycho. He was a young little boy named Edgar who never quite fit in, and all of his schoolmates made fun of him. And then one day he came home and his family didn't recognize him. No one knew who he was. So he went to the police, and the school didn't have any record of him, and nobody even has any record he was ever born. He was just wiped off the face of the earth. And what was supposed to happen was he was supposed to go for like a psychiatric evaluation. However, he was absorbed into Hive, and at Hive they recognized that he is psychic latent ability, and they started running tests and whatnot on him, and some of them are pretty grotesque tests. And ones that are strong enough for Hive, they go out and become warriors. Other members of Hive just become psychic batteries. However, one day, Edgar made a connection to another person who was the one who had like weird skull powers or whatever back 6 issues ago. And using her, they managed to break out of Hive. But then he still was, not a real boy. He didn't exist on any records. So he used his abilities to read and influence people to try to destroy Hive. That's what he wanted, but he lacked the sufficient power until one day he saw you, and you had all this power. So he decided that as soon as he connected with you, he got your full backstory, and he was going to manipulate you and seduce you into being able to siphon off your power and destroy Hive. And Superboy fully believes this, and Dr. Psycho's like, "None of that is true." And Superboy's like, "You didn't know who I was? You didn't know my full backstory?" And he's like, "Okay, that part was true. I actually do know your full backstory." And also, Psycho Pirate reveals that he's part of the secret society. He got a little coin and everything, so he's super definitely evil. So at that point, Superboy is like, all right, you know what? I don't know whether or not I trust you, Mr. Snake Man, but I definitely don't trust Dr. Psycho anymore. So why are you telling me all this? And Psycho Pirate's like, because I want your power, but I'm going to be upfront about it. I'm going to ask you for it. I'm not just going to do it behind the scenes like this little prick. And Dr. Psycho's like, please, don't listen to him, man. Please don't do that. And at that point, Superboy just like shakes him, says stop lying, and he throws some punches at him. There's nothing he can do about it. But his anger is being amplified by Psycho Pirate, and he's giving off just like waves of energy, which Psycho Pirate is absorbing. So at that point, as he's about to throw a punch, Dr. Psycho pulls out a whole bunch of green energy and blasts Superboy back with like a projection of a giant man around him, and he's like, you have no idea the power I have, the power that Hive was trying to take from me. No one understood. I have all of these different powers mixed into one. I'm not weak anymore. So Psycho Pirate then grabs the back of Dr. Psycho's head and removes his memory of Superboy's past so that Psycho Pirate can use it as a bargaining chip. And then doing so also distracts Dr. Psycho long enough for Superboy to come in and just start beating the ever-loving crap out of him. Dr. Psycho manages to get a grip on Superboy, and they have like a weird mind meld thing where he tries to pull out Superboy's power. It's too much. It overwhelms him. And then both Superboy and Dr. Psycho black out. What happens to Dr. Psycho? Who knows? But Superboy, if you remember, and I don't fault you for not remembering this, all the way back in issue 20, we opened up with Superboy waking up in a red room without any powers, and Krypto was there. And then someone, like, knocked him out again. This is then. We see him wake up in that room. Psycho Pirate says, well, when you take away the super, all that's left is a boy. And he kicks Superboy in the face and knocks him out. So he doesn't have any powers. Okay, I'm going to be upfront with you here because I did kind of peek ahead, and that is only because the next issue of this book is a tie-in to the Superman event, Krypton Returns. Mind you, we are currently in a Superman event called Psy-War, which also is a tie-in to that, so it's just Superboy cannot tell his own story to save his own life. But here's the problem. The next issue of Superboy, number 25, in this trade, the very next thing you see is Superboy with his powers back. It's on the cover. It's on the cover of the book that he has his powers back. So all of this, which has apparently been planned out for 5 issues now, since issue 20, for him to lose his TK powers, is for nothing. And it all felt like it was building to this sort of friendship thing with Dr. Psycho of like, well, clearly there would be a betrayal at some point because Dr. Psycho is a villain, but even ignoring that, even ignoring what's happening next issue, in the end, it wasn't for anything that Superboy was doing on his own. It was specifically because we were doing a thing over in Superman, and we just had to have a single issue where he says, oh, by the way, I'm doing something over in Superman right now, but I'm also visiting you at the same time. Like, he's not even a part of that story. I dislike this issue. And I dislike this issue not because of what the issue itself is, but because of what it represents for this arc as a whole, which is this is just Superboy is unable to have his own book. Superboy cannot exist in a vacuum. Superboy cannot just be his own character. New 52 Superboy exists solely to be tie-ins and fodder for other books, whether that's Teen Titans, whether that's Legion Lost, whether that's The Ravagers, whether that's Superman. This is not its own book. This is fodder. And I dislike it every step of the way. So all in all, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 2. And it's not even because the book itself is that bad. I am being completely unfair to it, but I don't care. It is a 2 because this book should not exist. And I do not look forward to its next issue. Katana number 8, written by Nocenti, art by Cliff Richards. Last issue, we got the backstory on what happened with Katana's husband, like, officially, but the main thing was that apparently there's a tattoo on whatever her name is, skin, and it's going to show that Katana's going to end the world, and now Katana has to fight Coil in a one-on-one sword fight. Her name is Shun, by the way. So at that point, Shun says, like, oh yeah, you outsiders did all these tattoos to me. You turned me into a freak show. And we see that Katana's all ready to start fighting Coil, but Sickle says, no, hold on. If you want to do this right, we have rituals. First, you have to beat you have to beat Coil using his Coil sword. You got to use, like, the weapon of his choice to beat him. So at that point, we just jump right into it. The duel begins, and it doesn't, like, it's just like 14 pages of a fight scene here, where the only thing that happens is they say, yes, Coil's true strength is not with his Coil sword, but with his words. He is able to speak poison that gets you off edge and whatnot, so that he can deliver the winning blow. And this entire time he's just saying, geez, Katana, you're going to end the world. That tattoo says so. You're awful. How much blood must spill before you are satisfied, before you find your way? Katana's just like, shut up. You're also a sociopath. He's like, that's not better. What? So at some point there, we see Katana does manage to catch him off guard, binds him up with the Coil sword, and wins. And so she lets him go, says, yes, you won, haha. Shun also jumps in on making fun of Coil, and Coil's like, well, you still got some skin I could tattoo. You better shut up, lady. So Coil then bows before Katana and says, all right, whatever, but you still have a second test. You still got a second thing you got to do. And she's like, this is a test that everybody has to do in order to get into the thing. And he's like, yeah, totally. And apparently it's Mona Shard. Now, if you remember, back like 4 issues ago, Katana's sword broke, and a bunch of spirits escaped, including this one of what appeared to be like a young girl or something, who took a shard of the sword with her. We're getting back to that. So apparently she is trying to basically take over the Dagger clan, because they are a ruthless but stupid clan, and she's going to rule them with an iron fist and then take over whatever. So she says, all right, well, if I do that, then if she's this bad of a thing, I have no problem killing her. Just tell me where I can find her. And it's like, oh, she's near some ship graveyard, something. Just go check her out. So then we go over and we see at a public park in Japantown is Mona. And she's like, oh, I've got an old woman body. I need to take the edge of a young girl, because that's going to be my thing to keep them off guard. So she possesses the body of this young girl who's just like a total bitch, and then proceeds to train this body in a shipyard by like turning her entire body into one big scar so that she's unable to be harmed. And we see that she has Shun's foot, which has the prophecy of the Dagger clan on it, and she's like, yes, I will take them on and be their leader. So then we go back into Japantown, and Jesus Christ, I forgot this was even in this issue. Go back into Japantown. Katana's just walking openly with Shun and just like, oh, what are we going to do, Katana? And she's like, I'm going to work on myself before I try to fix others. That's my thing. And then a falcon swoops in. And I think a falcon swooped in last issue. And this time she's like, all right, that's 2 times. Screw this. I'm going to go check out what this falcon's about. And she follows it up a hill, and she comes across Falcon, the man. And Falcon, the man, is like, oh, you use your sword to try to attack my falcon, but it does not attack you. It only goes for the bait. And he throws out some meat for it, and it swoops around her sword. It's unable to be hit by her. And he's like, you fool. Do not try to attack my falcon. Hold up your arm and let her perch. And so the falcon perches on the arm and be like, this falcon is a living weapon, something that can be used in your trial ahead. And Katana's like, dude, who the hell are you? What are you even saying? And he's like, if you don't know that yet, give me back my falcon. You'll figure it out later. And then he's just gone. So anyway, if you remember like 4 issues ago, when Mona Shard left the sword, there was also a samurai spirit that also disappeared. Well, this one's walking through Japantown and he comes across two sumo wrestlers and he's like, ah, yes, I need a tank. That's my thing. I want to be a tank. So I'm going to pick whoever wins this battle. And he watches the one who does. And as he's leaving the sumo like dojo or whatever, I'm going to quote him here. He says, I'm going to ride you. Are you okay with that? And the sumo says, no. And then he says, thanks, as he possesses him anyway. So we then go back to Junko's house where Shun is getting a bath from Junko. A Katana walks in just like, hey, Shun, you feeling all right? And she's like, yeah, no, I feel great. It feels weird to have the story of someone else's life on my body. And Katana's like, yeah, it feels weird, the story of my life beyond your body. It's not like great. By the way, do you have any birds anywhere on your body? He's like, oh, you mean the falcon? Yeah, it's on my shoulder. What? And she's like, I don't know. I have no idea what any of that meant yet. But regardless, Katana then asks Junko, hey, Mona Shard, do I have to kill her? And Junko's like, yeah, probably. So at that point, we see in the ship graveyard, Mona comes out with her daggers. She goes up to where the Dagger Clan is hanging out in an abandoned boat, and she sneaks her way on board, ready to start attacking / ruling over them. Who knows? Okay. I could follow this issue right up until we got into the ghost stuff, and then it's like, it's such a hard left. Like, oh yeah, no, here's the test that you have to do to take over the Sword Clan and claim your rightful place in order to do whatever the hell it is we're even doing here. And it's for a ghost that didn't even exist prior to the story? Like, maybe it's more so talking of, oh no, you have to take out the Dagger Clan leader. But like, she's not the leader. We see she's not the leader. She's just planning on becoming the leader. What? And then like, there's a part that I skipped over where Coyle's going on this whole thing of like, oh, the Outsiders are basically like the League of Assassins, where we just attack people who deserve it in order to keep the natural balance. Like, is that what they're talking about? I don't get it. It feels like I was fully starting to understand this story, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, right, we had ghosts running around. Silly me. Okay. I mean, I'll give it like a 4. It's not the worst written book in terms of I get what each scene is doing, but it just feels so haphazardly thrown together like there is no plan. We're just... this book could be canceled at any given point, and we're just waiting for the people up high to say this is your final issue, and at any point we could just throw on the final page saying, and then Katana did whatever she needed to do. The end. And it only has 2 more issues. It's 9 and 10, so we're getting there, but I don't get it. I don't think I'm supposed to get it, but I definitely don't, so it's a 4. World's Finest number 16, written by Paul Levitz, art by Scott McDaniel and R.B. Silva. So last issue, there was this whole fight against Desaad, and they just got warped back to their own world, and Karen is now without her powers. Power Girl is now just Girl. So we pick up at Fashion Week in New York City, where a building has caught fire. Huntress comes in and says, yes, I have to go save these people. But as she busts in, she somehow like fails the landing or something. I'm genuinely unclear as to what happens here. And she just falls down and face plants, and no one says anything. She doesn't even acknowledge it happened. But as she looks around, she's like, I smell accelerant in the air. Therefore, this fire is caused by someone, not just a fire. So I'm going to find who did it. And she sees someone running away, gives chase, follows them outside. The fire departments are already there, so it's not like she has to save lives or anything, but she's just focused on that. She says that it's been 4 minutes since the initial explosion that started the fire, so maybe this isn't the person that they want, but it still very well could be. And then all of a sudden she gets these weird, I'm just going to call them mental projections, but solid, of kunai thrown at her. And she's like, oh yeah, this is a girl. So, real quick, we make a cut back over to Karen, who's in front of her board of directors, basically saying, like, why don't I have my company back? And the lawyer stands up being like, well, it just takes time. And so she holds up the lawyer by his, like, tie. Just be like, get me my company back. He's like, right away, Miss Starr. And then she just walks out. So cutting back to the chase, we see this young woman, bald, with a bunch of, like, stripe tattoos all over her. Huntress pulls out her crossbow, takes a shot. She's able to make a mental, like, construct of a shield that stops the arrow and repels it. So the girl jumps into the subway. Huntress is afflicted by a bunch of mental shurikens. She's unable to jump in the subway with her, but she is able to try to chase down the girl down the, like, tunnel. And the girl's like, oh, get away from me, and blasts out at her. So that stops Huntress. So then we see Karen is looking over a bunch of tabloids with her face on it, saying, oh, if I'm going to get back out there, I got to dress the part. And Huntress comes in and is like, why are you talking to yourself? She's like, don't worry about that. How does this suit look on me? And Huntress says, I'd like to see the Power Girl suit on you. And all the 13-year-old boys say, yes, so would we all. But basically, Karen says, yeah, my powers are on the fritz. They're not gone. They're just on the fritz. I can't control them. And so I'm thinking of maybe going sunbathing because, my Kryptonian blood does well out in the yellow sun. So that's a thing. And Huntress is like, all right, whatever. You do what you need to do. So then she reveals, hey, by the way, I've had a run-in with this arsonist. I could really use your help. There's actually a fire going on downtown right now. Could you fly me there? And she's like, I don't know if I'm really able to fly, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. So they do manage to, like, very shakily make their way there. Huntress is dropped down onto the burning building, which is, again, something to do with Fashion Week. I don't know. And Huntress says, hey, I'm going to go find the arsonist. Could you, like, take care of the fire? And Huntress is like, yeah, sure. So she goes under the water and makes, like, a cyclone, and the water comes up and puts out the fire. So Huntress makes her way through the building. She sees a bunch of fashionistas that have been bound and gagged up, and it looks like they were the, like, things that were to be burned. So Huntress cuts them free and says, all right, get yourselves out. I gotta go find who did this. And as she looks out the back porch, she sees the tattooed woman on a mental construct of a disc just floating on the water. And she's like, oh my God, this girl could just fly now. That's so inconvenient for me. So she pulls out her crossbow, takes a shot, and the girl manages to, like, duck out of the way at the last minute. But Huntress continues to give chase, and Power Girl flies in after, being like, oh, hey, I see the one you're after. Let me take care of her. So Kara flies in. She makes a mental construct of a dragon, which then starts eating Power Girl. And she's like, oh, God, it feels like I'm wrestling through an oil spill. What's going on? So she's thrown down into the water. Or sorry, it's actually solid ground at this point. She's thrown down on the ground. She's then just laying there, and Huntress comes up being like, yeah, you definitely don't have your powers back, girl. And Karen's like, I know. And then that's the issue. She's just, clearly we're going to get a follow-up on this next issue, but, like, the whole thing is just Karen kind of doesn't have her powers and someone's setting fire at Fashion Week locations. That's the issue. I've never in this show felt like there's a more episodic comic than this. I feel like I didn't need to know anything that's happened before, and it doesn't feel like any issue that follows this, I'm going to need to know this one either. It's just, here's what's going on this week in the lives of these two heroes from another world. And even that's not a part of it. Like, nothing about them being from another world has anything to do with this. So, yeah, I mean, on its own, it's okay, I guess. But it definitely just feels so out of place because we were dealing with this whole thing of, Desaad and Apocalypse and all that stuff. And now it's just like, there's this random girl just setting fires because she doesn't like Fashion Week. Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't know. I feel like if I go too low, it's going to be unfair just because I want there to be an overarching story, but that's clearly not what the goal of this comic is. But if I don't like it, then I can't give it a high rating. So I'm a bit torn. I'll just give it a flat 5 in that it feels totally superfluous. It doesn't feel like it has any real direction. That much is objectively true. But subjectively, it's not a poorly written comic. On its own, it feels like it's just having fun, and I can't begrudge it for that, so I'll just give it the 5. Constantine number 7, written by Ray Fawkes, art by Szymon Kudranski. So last issue we had a whole big thing where the group of the Cold Flame, the Cult of the Cold Flame, was able to take all of Constantine's stuff. So we open up in this issue. Constantine was also dead at the time. We open in this issue with Constantine coming back to life. He makes his way back to his home, which is of course underneath a pet shop, and he's like, yep, nope, something clearly went through here. All these animals are dead, everything's quiet, but I don't care about that. Where's my stuff? And as he gets back into the back room, he sees everything is gone. So we cut back to Switzerland, which is where the Cult of the Cold Flame is, and we see Mr. E is like, yep, we've got it all. We've got all of his little trinkets. They're not interfering anymore, so we can see all of our targets across the globe, and we can put our plan into motion. So at that point, Sargon shows up, and Tanarak as well is like, yeah, no, Tanarak's gonna take care of the extraction ritual, so I'm gonna go visit the targets, and you can stay here and do whatever. And Mr. E is like, no. I'm going to visit all the things, all of our targets. You get to stay here and do whatever. And she claims, now you promised me that I'd get to kill Zatanna. And he's like, yeah, I'll leave Zatanna for you. I don't care about Zatanna. But regardless, you get to stay here for now. So we see in Australia, there's this woman who is giving like tarot card readings. Mr. E comes to visit her, and she's like, oh, I'm not in that life anymore. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, you rejected the invitation of the Cult of the Cold Flame forever ago. But I'm just going to take your power now. And he uses his ability to take her magical soul right out of her, killing her. And it's apparent now at this point that the entire thing they're doing is they are taking all of the other mystics, basically all of the magic in the world, and killing them so that they can be the only ones and have total control over magic. So at that point, Constantine realizes, like, the awfulness of what's truly happened. He hears Miss Dottie, the one who runs the pet shop, behind him, and he is like, oh geez, yeah, she probably saw a lot. So he goes in and he's like, Miss Dottie, how you doing? And she's like, oh, there was a magician here. He's like, right, I need to run a little spell on you just to make sure you're all right here. And she recounts how the magician opened up heaven and let Dottie see her old husband, and Constantine's like, yeah, it doesn't work like that. So we cut to Italy, and Mr. E comes across some guy named Strigone, and Strigone's like, yes, I was approached by the Cold Flame before, but I don't do that anymore, and I rejected their call, so be gone with ye. I will never pay what you need. You will pay in the next world. And he's like, oh, you don't understand. I'm calling that now, as he sends Strigone into the next world. So at that point, Tanarak starts his ritual of extraction. He speaks in a bunch of tongues or whatever. He has all of Constantine's trinkets in front of him, and whatever ritual he does pulls all of the magic out of it. And we see across the world all of the different people who might be involved in this sort of stuff see this beam of light of magic just jetting across. Felix Faust is terrified at the idea. The Spectre sees it, and he's like, that might involve me soon enough. Down in hell, we have Etrigan see it, and he's like, oh, hey, that's hilarious. That's going to cause so many problems up on Earth. And Papa Midnight in New York realizes, oh, Constantine, this is probably all your fault. So back where Constantine is dealing with Miss Dottie, Sargon shows up. And Sargon's like, hey, Constantine, you messed up. All it took was the one mistake, and it's done for you. And she explains like the whole plan to him. Says like, yep, we're destroying all your trinkets. We're taking out the magical stuff. Mystery is hunting down all the stray mages. So, yep, everything's done. And Constantine pulls out a cigarette, and it looks like he's about to pull off some like magic trick to escape. But Sargon's like, no, I'm not letting you do that. And so she basically locks him down, holds him in place. And she's like, my father had the ruby of life. It gave us control over all of the elements. And now I am so much more powerful than that. I literally control the world. And I am just holding you in place with barely like a tenth of my power. And at that point, she says, I'll just read it straight out here. She says that she used to have dreams of Constantine being killed by her, that she was strangling Constantine. And she asked her father, what did that mean? And he said that when the time comes, it meant that I would decide your fate. And so she walks up to Constantine, kisses him, and Constantine's like, I'm sorry, what? And she said, let's go, and teleports Constantine out. So we get one more thing of mystery. In England, he approaches this mother with a child, and mother's basically like, look, I know why you're here. I don't want anything to happen to my family, and I don't want to die either, so I will join the cult of the Cold Flame. I'm totally in on that. And he's just like, great, awesome. That's not what the deal is anymore. And he sends the daughter upstairs, and it seems like he's going to kill her regardless. Also, this woman says that she is Julia Everhart, and she used to be a lover of Constantine. So then we cut over to Constantine and Sargon. He's sitting on the edge of the bed, seemingly after doing the naughty, and Sargon's like, oh, you're so delicious, Constantine. Can I keep you? And he's like, I have a feeling I don't have a choice in this. She's like, you're right, you don't. So at that point, Mr. E enters the room, and I think it's so dark it's hard to tell, but I think he stabs Constantine in the back and says, all right, you had your fun. This is how you end. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I liked it. Obviously, Szymon Kudranski's art, fantastic. I really do enjoy it. Pretty much every panel. I do like this idea of just all of the villains saying, yeah, no, we won. Screw this. Like, we managed to get one over on them. And it doesn't seem like there is really a way out for Constantine here. I know this isn't a Forever Evil tie-in, but eventually it will be. I wonder how much of this is going to lead just directly into that, of basically taking Constantine down a peg, saying, no, you don't have your trinkets and toys anymore. You barely have any magic either. You're stuck back at like level 1. So I'm interested, to say the very least. Total score-wise, I don't think I can really give it above a 7.5. I'll give it a 7.5, and a lot of that is art that bumps it up that extra half point. But it's an interesting issue. I don't feel like it's really necessary. I don't feel like it's doing a lot to forward the story, but it's just nice to take a little breather and say, yeah, no, Constantine's not always in charge. Here's what happens when the villains get one over on him. So 7.5, we'll see what continues next issue. And that's it. That's all the comics that came out from DC Comics this October 9th, 2013. And it's really weird because we had that whole month that was nothing but villains issues. And that whole time I felt like it was off. I felt like, this isn't the normal way of things. And then we came back last week, and it still felt off. It still felt to me like, I'm so used to doing the villains things now. It's weird to come back, and this is how things are again. But now this week, I'm already back in the swing of it. It just feels like a normal week. It doesn't feel like I'm still trying to get my bearings. It feels like, no, I've been doing this for 110 episodes now. I'm used to it. So, yeah, I guess it's just the way it is. I do have to try to keep in mind, though, that we are still in event season because, the books sure don't. In fact, let me just tell you what's coming out next week. Next week, we have, in no particular order, Forever Evil, Rogues Rebellion, Batman and Robin, Batwoman, Birds of Prey, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Batman Superman, Supergirl, Green Lantern New Guardians, Justice League of America, Justice League of America's Vibe, Wonder Woman, Animal Man, and Trinity of Sin Pandora. So out of that, things that are events, we have, of course, the Forever Evil Rogues Rebellion. Green Lantern New Guardians is one. Justice League of America and Pandora are both tie-ins to Forever Evil. I don't think Supergirl is a part of Psywar, but it wouldn't surprise me if she's pulled into that. But either way, tons of events going on. We'll get to them all. We'll do them all. Obviously, it's not like I'm going to leave you hanging on that regard. But yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about it until we get there. So if you have anything you'd like to say about it, I'd love to hear it. Please feel free to hit me up on any of the social media sites that aren't garbage. For now, that includes Reddit, Discord, and if you're willing to shell out a bit of money, Patreon. All the links are in the description and or on the screen for you video viewers, but that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching, listening, however it is you consume this podcast. Be sure to thumbs up or do whatever. I'm so bad at doing this thing because, like, whenever people tell me to do it in videos of be sure to give it a thumbs up and click that bell or whatever, I openly scoff. I openly laugh at them. And now I have to do it myself. What have I become? So anyway, yeah, leave a comment, interact, share this video, do whatever it is you do. I will see you in the next episode. And be sure to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.